There we go. Right, year 2, welcome to our last recorded lesson. I will see all of you hopefully in person tomorrow, in real life. So this will be our last recorded session today. We're going to look at commands again today. So if I start sharing my screen, I've got a question for you first. My question for you first is, what are the 3 types of sentence that we know now? I just spoke about commands, but there are 2 others that we have talked about as well. So think about commands, yes, but try and remember the other 2. We looked at them briefly yesterday and we've done lessons on them before. I'll give you a moment to think about it before I tell you that one of them is statements, and the last one that we've learned about so far are questions. There is a 4th, we'll learn about those next term. So we've learned about commands, statements and questions. But what we really need to know in year 2 is the job of each of those sentences. These are 3 sentence types. Have a think please about the job of a question. What does a question do? How would you recognise one? And then what is the job of a statement? What does a statement do? And then finally, what does a command do? We learnt that yesterday. Questions, I hope you said something about questions require an answer, or they ask you something. Asking questions is how you're used to describing them, but they require an answer. If you ask a question, somebody has to answer you with their response. Statements are the ones that give you information. So they just tell you about something. And commands are the bossy ones. They tell you what to do. I hope you had fun yesterday pretending to be bossy and bossing somebody around at home, giving them lots of commands. Commands are what we are going to focus on again today. And I just practiced sharing a book with everybody. So if I stop sharing, and then I'm going to start sharing something else, because I've actually got a book today that has got lots of commands in it. Now I can put it to read mode and you should be able to see the title there. It's called Super Cool Chemical Reaction Activities. We're not going to read the whole book, but we are going to read part of it, because in this book there are lots of commands. And we're going to have a particular look at the way those commands are structured. Super Cool Chemical Reaction Activities with Max Axiom. I'm guessing that's that guy there on the right. Okay, scroll through the information to our contents page. We're going to read the Super Cool Chemical Reactions page, and then we're going to read bubbling blobs. So if I scroll down, we can start with the first piece of information. So super cool chemical reactions. Chemical reactions are all around us. Some reactions we can't control, such as the flash of a firefly. But others we can actually control, such as burning wood or setting off fireworks. In a chemical reaction, one substance changes into a new substance. This fire changes wood into ash and smoke. It may seem like magic, but it's real. Year 2, we did a chemical reaction experiment when we made our volcanoes, and we added together the ingredients and the liquid bubbled up out of our cup. That was a chemical reaction. So this is a book all about those sorts of activities. Believe it or not, there are lots of amazing activities involving chemical reactions that you can do yourself. So grab your safety goggles and join me at my secret lab. So we're just going to read one of his first experiments. There are lots of commands in this, and you'll see why in a moment. So I'm just going to read the beginning part to you. Bubbling blobs. Oil and water don't mix. And this project uses that fact to its advantage. Check out how a chemical reaction can create a super cool lava lamp. That is what it will look like in the end. I'm not saying you have to do this activity, but it is a fun one to do should your parents give you permission. You will need clear, clean plastic 500 milliliter drinks bottle, vegetable oil, water, food colouring, and effervescent tablets. The plan of action bit, year 2. Oh, I clicked out of reading mode. The plan of action is where we will find our commands. Now, you might recognise these as a certain type of writing. What they're going to give us are instructions. Instructions are made using commands because they tell you what to do. What I want you to think about really carefully, I'm going to read the command, the instruction to you. I want you to find the verb in that command, because we noticed yesterday where those commands often come, where those verbs often come in a command. Not always, but often. To read the command to you, I want you to find the verb in that command. So, 1, fill the bottle 3/4 full of vegetable oil. Then slowly pour water into the bottle until it's almost full. There are actually 2 verbs in that command because they are 2 separate sentences. The first verb we had was that verb fill. Fill the bottle 3/4 full. The second verb then must be in this second sentence. Then slowly pour water into the bottle until it's almost full. So find the verb, find the thing that you are doing in that sentence. It's right here. It's the word pour. That's what you have to do. So we've got 2 sentences, 2 commands, so 2 verbs, fill and pour. Notice where the verb fill comes in that command. It comes at the beginning. It's not the same with the second command. That comes slightly later because we have this adverb first. It must be important how you pour that water. So our writer has chosen to put an adverb before our verb. But both of our commands have verbs to follow. Those are the things you have to do. If I scroll down, we'll look at command number 2. Again, find the verb in that sentence. Wait a few minutes for the oil and water to separate completely. I'll read that again. Wait a few minutes for the oil and water to separate completely. Find that verb. What's the thing you have to do in command number 2? You have to wait. Wait a few minutes for the oil and water to separate completely. Again, notice where that verb is in our command. It comes right at the beginning, just the same as our first sentence with fill. Let's see if the same thing happens in command number 3. Add about 12 drops of food colouring. Where's that verb? Which is the thing you are doing in that command there? You are adding the drops of food colouring. Again, it comes at the beginning. 3 more commands. Let's see if those verbs stay at the beginning of our commands. Number 4, wait for the food colouring to fall through the oil and mix with the water on the bottom, which is the verb there. The thing you are doing is waiting. There is another verb in that sentence. That's the verb fall. That is about the subject of the sentence, the oil. What you have to do, is not all of it, is that verb wait. So the verb you are doing is waiting. The food colouring is doing the falling. You are waiting. So the verb that's important for the whole command is, again, right at the beginning. That verb wait. 2 more. Break an effervescent tablet into 3 or 4 pieces and drop them into the bottle. Interesting, we've got a compound sentence here because we've got the conjunction and, so that must mean there are 2 verbs here to find. Find the 2 things you are doing in that command. Break an effervescent tablet into 3 or 4 pieces and drop them into the bottle. So there should be a verb before our conjunction and after it. Our first verb comes right at the beginning. It's the word break. Break that effervescent tablet into pieces. Our second verb comes straight after our conjunction, drop. Those are the two things you are doing in that command. First of all, you're breaking the tablet. Second of all, you're dropping it into the bottle. Because it's a compound word, a compound sentence, sorry, with that conjunction and, you have to have two verbs there. Okay, last command. Watch the blobs begin to rise. Watch the blobs begin to rise. Again, tricky, there are two verbs here. Only one of them is the thing that you have to do. So which of those verbs is the thing that you have to do? You have to watch. It's the blobs that will rise. So the thing you have to do is to watch those blobs. So if we think about where that verb came in most of those commands, at the beginning of our first clause and our second clause, because I could get rid of that word and, exchange it for a full stop, and I'd still have a separate sentence on the end here, drop them into the bottle. So that is the beginning of the second clause, and that is the beginning of the first clause. So they're still at the beginning of our clauses, at the beginning of our commands. A verb there at the beginning, a verb here at the beginning, and here at the beginning. Then we have two separate sentences, one of them with our verb at the beginning, but then another one where our verb was a little bit later because it was modified by this adverbial phrase there, using the adverb slowly. So can we say verbs always come at the beginning of a command? Not necessarily. I'm going to go back to my visualizer, and we're going to have a look at what you are going to do today. You are going to write yourself some commands, thinking about where that verb needs to go. Sometimes it will come right at the beginning. Other times there could be an adverb or a word before it. I'm going to write myself the same command twice, actually, because a couple of people got a little bit confused about punctuation yesterday. So I'm going to write the very simple command, turn to the left. Then I'm going to write it again. Turn to the left. And I hope you noticed I've missed off the ending punctuation, because yesterday in your questions you had, you were using two different types of punctuation. Sometimes you were using a full stop, and sometimes you were using an exclamation mark. Both of these sentences are commands, even though one has got a full stop and one has an exclamation mark. And the reason for that is the command is the purpose of the sentence. That's telling you what to do. All the punctuation at the end does is tell you how to say it. So it changes your tone of voice, but it doesn't change the type of sentence that it is. It's a command here, and it's a command here as well. The ending punctuation doesn't change that. But listen to how I say these two sentences. When it's got a full stop, it would sound like this. Turn to the left. If it has an exclamation mark on the end, it might sound a little bit like this. Turn to the left. So there are two different ways of saying that sentence, turn to the left. That would have been with a full stop on the end, turn to the left. Just a piece of sort of normal, polite request, turn to the left. But if it's got an exclamation mark on the end, it means you say it with a little bit more emphasis. Maybe that person's in danger and you want to warn them. Or maybe you're getting cross with them because they won't turn to the left. Turn to the left would also need an exclamation mark. The exclamation mark and the full stop, they just change how you say it. They don't change the context of the sentence. They don't change what that sentence is telling you to do. There was also a command yesterday that started with that word. So what if I said, please turn to, and I'll go on to the next line down so I don't lose you, please turn to the left. Is that still a command? Remember, commands tell you to do something. So is it telling you to do something? Please turn to the left. It is. Even though it's using that word please, it just means it's a polite command. And again, I could put a full stop on the end. Please turn to the left. If I were to exchange that full stop for an exclamation mark, maybe I'm getting a little bit exasperated because somebody's not doing it. Please turn to the left. It's the same words and the same meaning, but the exclamation mark has changed how I say it. It's changed sort of the story behind this sentence. And it makes you think that the person saying it is maybe getting a little bit frustrated or cross. And that's what the exclamation mark on a command shows. Now, your task today is to write your own commands, but they're going to be the commands that you have heard this morning. So think about all of the things that you have been told to do this morning. Things like open your computer and do your English work or do your maths work. I want you to write those sentences down. I've got my English book. You can write just on a normal piece of paper. So if I swap to a normal pen, I'm going to write the title commands. That's a scratchy pen. And I'm going to write my date, which is 20.10.20. If I zoom in slightly, then you'll be able to see this. Now, I want you to write down some of the commands you have heard this morning, but be really careful. Remember, commands tell you to do something. So maybe you've heard the command this morning, eat your breakfast. Now, the punctuation you put on the end will depend on how your parents said it to you. If they just told you to eat your breakfast, you can put it with a full stop. But if they were a little bit cross with you, year two, if you weren't doing what you were told, they might have said it like this, eat your breakfast, in which case it will probably want an exclamation mark on the end. The only way I'm going to know how that sentence was said is by the punctuation you put on the end. So if it was just said in a normal tone of voice, you can put a full stop on the end. If it was said a little bit crossly or maybe frustratedly, you're going to want an exclamation mark. Somebody might also have said to you, get dressed. Oh, I haven't spelled dressed right. That's not very helpful. Get dressed. I'm going to put a full stop on that one because maybe just somebody said it normally to you. Be really careful. I'm just going to move my book out of the way because I don't want to write this one in my book. Because I'm sure some of you heard sentences like this. It's time to get up. Now that's a sentence where the implication is you have to do something, but if we look really carefully, it's time to get up. It's actually not telling you to do something at all. You're just clever and you know that's what it means. This actually is a statement. It's just giving you some information. Now, because you're well behaved, what you'd probably do is you'd just get up if your parents said, it's time to get up now. That's just what we do. But you have to think more cleverly than that today. You have got to really think about whether the sentence is actually telling you to do something, or whether it's just giving you some information and expecting you to work out what to do. So this task is not as easy as it first appears, because quite often your parents will tell you a statement and you'll do something anyway because you're really well behaved. So before you write any sentence down in your on your piece of paper, make sure it really is a command. Make sure it's actually telling you to do something. It's time to get up is actually a statement. Maybe the command would go something like get up, or a bit more politely, up you get now. That would be how you'd write the command that links to the statement, it's time to get up. So don't let these commands fool you. Really think about whether or not the sentence you are writing is telling you to do something. Is it a command, or is it a statement disguised as a command? So before you write them down, really think, is it giving me information, or is it actually telling me to do something? Try and think of all of the commands you've heard this morning, write them down in a list, and then you can send me a picture of them later. That is your task for today. So direct command, off you go and get started.